Sup team, how we going? First off, I just want to say a huge thank you to all you out there for supporting this Assorted Kiwi podcast. Life is assorted, taste is assorted, our minds are assorted, and our stories are assorted. The Assorted Kiwi podcast is where Kiwis can share their assorted perspectives, ideas, and dreams. Assorted is all about Kiwis connecting through what is important to them. Every idea is important to who you are. Some may miss, but the best ideas are the ones that challenge ways of thinking and also emotionally connect people to one another. This is the definition of the Assorted Kiwi.
Mysterious vibe we share. I can't touch it, but it's still there. If I go away, will it stay with you? If you go, will it follow me?
Yo. Welcome, guys, to the Assorted Kiwi show. Another one in the Assorted Kiwi couch, right in front of the display. Welcome aboard, and again, thank you for tuning in, because it's just cool to be doing this, like any chance that I do get to do an Assorted Kiwi and talk to a Kiwi with a story to tell, because you know the vibes. But before I introduce the guest to my left, a little bit of an intro of how I know this brother. So it's a kind of a long story, because like I'm 30 now. I think we probably known each other for maybe like 25 years, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. This is like a brother I grew up with like in primary school, like back down in Dunedin. So, and we've got similarities of not only geographical location, but just our name as well. You know, I am my name is Hamish, and to my left I've got another Hamish, and he actually went, back when we were two Hamishes in the same class, he went by Ham, I went by Ish, because he's a bit older than me, but it seemed to work. By a couple of months, but it still counted, and you were still like kind of the big guy. Like when you thought about like Dragon Ball Z back then, you were the Goku, I was probably the Goten. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's always been the vibes. And another awesome thing about this brother is not only is his name Hamish, but he also goes by the name of Scapegoat MERCY when he does a lot of his music things that we've just kind of I've been following for ever since he's been doing it from afar. And it's just awesome to have you here, bro. So that was a long-winded intro. Yeah. But thanks for coming through to this sort of Kiwi brother.
I was actually about to bring up before one of my favourite memories of us at your house. I think it must have been maybe intermediate. And me, you, and Aparana.
Yeah. Shout out to Uppy, by the way.
Shout outs.
Yeah.
We took turns trying an insanely spicy chili in your kitchen. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to remember. Like there was many like food experiments that like me and Uppy used to do. Yeah. Like we used to be like on the tuna and rice bars.
This is the one time that I got involved.
You just remember.
It's
like crack up.
Because we always used to hang in primary school, but around intermediate and high school it became a bit more intermittent. But yeah, so that stood out as like one of the funniest times, because we all I think we went through a few litres of milk after that.
Yeah.
After we kind of
I think so. I don't know, but it's like when you're being like
real
young.
Men, we just cried openly.
Like I think it was just like, I don't know, those are the vibes though. Like I just a lot of my like awesome memories that I have is like from primary. Yeah. Right? But I kind of go back to quite a lot, because that's kind of when I would, not to say that I was the happiest, but there was a lot of pure vibes there. And sometimes when you try to recreate those,
a lot less clutter.
Yeah, a lot less clutter, and a lot of like awesome like playgrounds when there wasn't any OSH involved and stuff, and we just had like cool vibes, you know.
I was thinking about it the other day, and it's like around intermediate high school where you start to almost develop like societal barriers and kind of more boundaries about, you know, who you're becoming as a person. When you get older, you start to kind of break them down again.
Yeah, 100%.
It's quite trippy.
It is trippy, yeah.
You almost like, and even like we were saying before with music, it's like, you know, you try and develop your kind of niche and stuff in high school, and you're just like, this is the best time. And it's like, it's not the best time. It's just when you were defining yourself, you know?
Exactly.
And then as you get older, you just like start to open up to kind of, break down those boundaries and be like, well, I'm not just one aspect of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's probably like kind of cool thing. Like, do you find that like, when I kind of touched on that, like you kind of like, I feel personally, I don't know if I'm unique in this, but I know we've had conversations when we had a coffee earlier, but you kind of like start like kind of going back to basics in a way.
Yeah.
Like you declutter a lot of your life, but like you needed to experience so much to be able to understand, okay, now when you're defining yourself, you sponge it up,
Yeah.
but then you kind of rinse the sponge out
Yeah.
and keep the nutrients that you want to keep for the path that you want to be going on,
Yeah. Well, I've made like a distinct effort to do that recently, moving up to Whangarei.
Yeah.
Because I remember I like had a lot of conversations about it when I was living in Wellington, with people who I looked up to, whether it be like spiritually or just for guidance or whatever.
Yeah.
And I realized that I always felt kind of overwhelmed by like urban areas, and I'd always say that there's so many so many things going on that you don't even realize. Like consciously or subconsciously, you're just being bombarded with little notifications on your phone or even street lights or signs, and
just
every time
noise.
you walk. Yeah. Like just like noise, consciously or subconsciously, there's just so much going on. And it's only when you kind of get out and you go for a walk, and a lot of the time it would be up Mount Vic or whatever, that you start to realize how overwhelmed you are, or like it influences you and it guides you, whether you're conscious of it or not.
Like those kind of negative.
Yeah, not
So
yeah,
wouldn't I
not
say
even
negatives?
negative, but it's just like it's
The sound of like 4-wheel drives going up and down the road and tooting horns, like that doesn't inspire like kind of relaxing vibes.
Yeah.
Like if you were in like a kind of urban, we're lucky that we've, for people who have been here, like we've got nice like foliage out the front, like whether that's the right word or not. I kind of like using that because my dad uses it, but it's quite rare to have that. But there is, what is quiet, there is still this undertone of kind
there's
of
this
activity.
underlying kind of for me it felt like a pressure to kind of be like, well, you work heaps, and then when you're not working, you make sure you're making time for other people, and then
not for yourself.
It would be like I'd end up just drinking heaps, and just to kind of numb out all of the sensory overload that was going on, and it didn't leave me a lot of time to focus on how I wanted to develop
The mindfulness,
personally. A lot of it ended up by the end of my 3-year tenure in Wellington. It ended up being almost a reflex. I'd just, avoid university, and then I'd go to work, and then I'd drink with my friends, and then I'd make music. But, in reflection, I don't know if the music that I made was the best that I could have, or at least the most inspired, because I don't even know how much of me was in it.
You were your man, yeah.
And it was, I don't want to discount all of the stuff that I did, but it was like, I felt like a lot of it was just me forcing myself to make music, rather than it being an organic output.
But do you feel that like while the output wasn't, I'd hate to say that it was like forced, but like the output wasn't something that you were fully like believing in, because not all of you were in it, isn't it? But like the grind years for you to get up to Whangarei and actually be at peace with yourself, or find the time to be more reflective and mindful, did you look back at it and you're like, yo, well, all the skill set that I've developed has actually allowed me to be more mindful when I have that time at peace? Like,
Yeah. Well, yeah.
in a way,
I feel like that output was reflective
of that time.
Of how chaotic I was,
Like the sounds of like different genres
Yeah,
and
it was
different
more
like
industrial.
sounds.
It was more strained. It was definitely like, it was reflective, and a lot of the beats I'd made were similar. And like I'm saying, like that's why I wouldn't discount it. But I feel like now the stuff I'm making is a bit more whole,
Natural.
bit more whole foods, you know, in comparison.
Got you. And it's not to say that like you're like, I mean, you know, like my kind of like value set is like people who can express themselves. Like I've got the massive amount of like kudos for, because not many people can do that. But did you find that there was, now you're kind of on that whole food organic diet because of your surroundings? It is pretty much there, isn't there stuff that taints?
Like you need
Balance?
space. Yeah, you need mental space to be mindful. You literally need time. You can't be on a very tight schedule. I know people who can be, but they are on a tight schedule where they make space for themselves to be mindful. You know, there are people who are on a tight schedule, but they'll make 2 hours for themselves to be able to focus on how they can.
They add structure to their lives so they can be the best person.
Structure so they can have mental well-being.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what a lot of people in their 20s kind of sacrifice nowadays. is they like try and compete to be the best at what they're doing. They try and,
try and gun for the spot, but doesn't really exist. It's just like a path that's kind of set in front of you.
Our 20s are very competitive nowadays, you know, all of the ability to compare yourself online.
This is actually kind of like the whole competing stuff. Like I remember like back in the day, like while like you were the man, like what you were known for was like that cross country, like Cotter Street, Caversham, like smash it.
Yeah.
I remember those times. But like it was always competitive, but it probably instilled that. Did it instill a lot of that like kind of drive? Did it still in you sort of drive, or like
no? It kind of went the opposite way.
You wanted to break away from that sort of thing?
It wasn't even like a concerted effort to break away from. Well, yeah, I guess. Because it was like I think maybe I went through puberty earlier than everyone else. I was just taller. I had longer legs. I had leg hair before everyone else. I had a bromo before we went to friggin' McAndrew.
Yeah.
You know, and even old mate Daniel Wade, he called up to me in height, you know, like it was like, it was one of those things. Shout out to Daniel Wade.
Shout out. And shout out just to all the like people who
College Street,
like even the places that we're talking about, like just your real ones, like regardless of what you're doing, because you just like all have that drive. So,
but I feel like I relied on natural ability, and that's you know, when it came to the more academic aspects as well, I lacked an effort. I would rely on, and that worked for me until I was about sixth form, and then I didn't even pass seventh form. I didn't pass high school, because I just lacked the effort. And
like you've in hindsight, you probably like the skill set or like the ability to do it, but like the drive to be able to do it. You're just like, nah.
Well, because if nothing, like, I'm not saying it didn't challenge me, but if it didn't challenge me up until that point, then why would I have any interest in it?
Like, did you find there was like kind of it was a box that was like kind of this is where I kind of like see like school. It's like school was like, it's a box. But like sometimes like you don't want to be in a box. Sometimes you want to be in a circle or whatever. Like I know it's like kind of makes some sort of loose sense, but sometimes the box isn't for other people. Some people don't want to be provided a box. They want to create their own box.
Yeah.
Did you find that maybe in the early age there was kind of a lot of that? Like I know there's like a lot of people that I know, like maybe one clear example, and it's just like shout out to Uppy again, because like growing up he was one that he just kind of made his own box for me, like, and that's why I've always looked up to him and a lot of other people who kind of step away from like societal norms but like try and do something different but then do it for themselves and other people, if you get what I mean, like help themselves, help other people, but give themselves oxygen to be able to be the best version of themselves, like the most authentic person. But sometimes you don't actually figure that out until we're around the 30.
Yeah.
But like being able to, there's certain ones that we've experienced, like certain people that we've met along our journeys, respectively, that at a young age already have that kind of
Yeah, they just know what they can do. Because, I knew that I had no interest in, traditional education. And I tried. I went to Polytech and university when I was like 19, 20.
But unless
and I
you
think
tried
I failed
it,
that again.
but you tried it. But you tried it
I
to
failed
understand.
that too.
But like, just
and I
because you
really
go
gave it a
somewhere-
go.
But exactly, but just because you go somewhere doesn't mean that you're gonna like it. It's not like it automatically you.
Yeah, well, that's
you
the
sign
thing,
up
though,
and
like,
go in. You're like you're gonna be a
It
success.
was one of those
Like,
things where it was just like, what are your interests? And, I'm doing coding now, but it was the right time of my life for me to go into coding.
Mhm.
Back then, I was still interested in computers, so I went to do like hardware and repair and blah, blah, blah. And it was really interesting, but the structure of the education I didn't gel with. I wasn't interested in all, so I didn't end up passing. And that was my parents' attempt to be like, you're a smart person, you just need to find out what you're interested in. But it was when I was failing at that course that I realized I wanted to pursue music a bit more. And I wasn't like, oh, hell yeah, I'm going to do this as my friggin' vocation. But it was when I realized that in my downtime, that's all that I'd do.
It, like listen to
It
just
was
live and breathe music.
It was something because I'd get more out of sorting my friggin' iTunes library in alphabetical order than I did trying to make a partition on somebody else's hard drive.
If you got a question about that, like when it came to like iTunes libraries or like iPods and stuff, were you really like particular in OCD when it came to like sorting it out like, and the correct names and stuff and album covers and sourcing and bringing the art to that kind of new form digital thing?
Yeah,
I
I had a really rigid structure of how it was sorted out, and I think that ended, around 22 when I moved away and sold my computer and stuff.
Yep.
And I really got into my own music, which is a totally different thing. But yeah, I had this real intense structure where it was like I would always have the artist and then the song name.
Yeah.
And then I would have the brackets and then we would have feet without a dot, lowercase.
Yeah, and it had to be the same bracket sort of system, eh?
Yeah.
It couldn't be featuring.
It had to be feet.
It had to be feet, eh?
F-E-A-T without the dot,
Yeah. I'd spent hours on that, man.
And it was something that I developed from, all of the different pirating kind of programs over the years. I think it started Napster and then maybe went WinMX and then LimeWire.
Yeah.
And then it kind of went on to almost torrents after that.
Yeah, because torrents made it easier to have like that structure, but there were certain mods that I still have to make to like song names. But like if you did LimeWire, it would be like real jumbled up. Or even if some torrents, like the whole album will be out of sync and you would have to reorder them.
Yeah.
I know it's a very random thing, but it's kind of, I'd like to like...
It was a testament to how much you appreciated music.
And that's what I was just about to segue to, because, while we probably, the last time we were kind of like in a similar circle was intermediate, so to speak, like we were kind of in the peripherals then, more in primary school, but then we were we went to different high schools, but even in Dunedin, while it's still small, there's overlap between Kings and Otago boys, but like sometimes it's just
not all
like,
of them, please.
Not all of them. Yeah. I remember like ice hockey like tournaments and stuff like that, or ice hockey games, and like it was this kind of organized like fights and stuff.
Yeah.
But like I always have respect for Kings boys because like I grew up with them.
Yeah.
It was just like parents' decision.
It was like
to
one
kind
of those things where
a
it's
different
like
path.
McAndrew and Tahuna had beef until we all went to Kings, and then that was all
fine.
good.
Yeah.
And then, when you get into the big wide world, I reckon everybody from Dunedin kind of put their differences aside, and then they're just like, well, Jaffas, am I right? No.
Yeah.
But, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's what I found after high school, man. Like, there's a lot of people that, like, I feel that myself, I've always been in this, like, middle ground. Like, kind of was friends with a lot of people, made the effort to get to know everyone, but I wasn't, like, cliquey. I wouldn't do that stuff, but all the people who maybe, like, teased me because I would talk to, like, people that no one wanted to talk to.
Yeah.
At the end of like 7th form or even closer to 6th form, 7th form, it was all good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That all that like angst and stuff is just people trying to find their own lane and the pressures.
I
they
never
have,
understood.
I never understood that.
I I had I was pretty rough around the edges, but I'd never. I'd try and make it an even playing field for everyone. I never.
Yeah.
I didn't like bullies. I didn't like people who consistently, got bullied. I didn't really subscribe to any kind of jock stuff.
Or script stuff.
I didn't really kind of like, I thought, quote unquote nerds or whatever were just 10 times more interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of the time.
I came
People who grew up
awesome.
with, who had to actually try,
Yeah. I mean, I think
just-
it's like, that's why like I look at it like, I mean, it's just funny, like growing up, there's always these boxes and like, I deal with it at work because I deal with market research stuff and like people like try and like, people treat people like numbers or put them into these groups, like segments. Like you can't really put like people into like 7 categories and that's representative of nation because everyone has nuances like based on
it's real strange.
on where our paths go because like you've got nuances in the fact that you were in Dunedin and then
we
you
were
went
down
to
in
this thing.
we were down in South Dunedin. Apparently, that's one of the lowest decile populations in New Zealand because the rent's so cheap you can live off the benefit. So a lot of people don't have jobs because they can just live off the benefit type stuff.
But you think about South Dunedin, like it's right next to all the beaches. Like
It's
like
so
you think about like
strange.
30 years, it's like oosh.
Because a lot of people who we grew up with, I used to think you were well off compared to me, and then I went to McAndrew and people would think I was well off. And then I went to high school and then people at Columba and John McGlash and were just like, how are you so rich? And then it was just like, well, maybe this whole comparison thing is kind of a moot point.
Yeah, it doesn't make the whole comparison.
It's like maybe we should attempt to find similarities rather than differences.
Well, exactly. I mean, that's why I always like tried to like I always was like quite open but I always had like kind of a small circle. It was only just because I was only a child.
It happens in music though.
Yeah, it
happens in music. It's just like, well, you didn't have to struggle. You didn't have to do this and be like, well, let's. There was one thing I did. I was just like, well, why are we comparing who struggled the most? Because it's just going to be, kind of just
the output of
recycling our suffering until we just.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Like just like this is like kind of like take away any sort of like things like we're people in a room and we have the ability to kind of create. That's the commonality and let's just move forward.
Because that's why I kind of moved away from making more traditionally darker, heavier stuff because I ended up realizing that I was just recycling the negative elements. That I was, everybody's just like it's a vent. It's a way how I process my problems. And it was for me as well.
Yeah.
But
you probably learned a lot through that process.
There was a point where I started recycling the stuff that I was meant to be processing, Because
I get what you mean. Yeah.
When you have those problems that you find, hard to process, you can't just attempt to understand them. You need to be proactive about
Yeah, you can write them down. This is what I've learned.
And it definitely helps. But there was a point where it stopped helping.
But like the thing is, like you can write it down, you can talk about it. However, the next step is actually the next step isn't just writing it down and then that's all good and merry and you go on. It's actually like, why have I written this down? Why am I feeling this way? Why is this theme keep coming up? Okay, do I need to make some changes? And then
it's like one of those things where it's just like, and you can acknowledge there are changes that you need to make, but then you need to make them, and it's outside of music. And there's a point where you trying to process that negativity and all of those things, they can start to, and especially if you're looking for any sort of validation from the community.
Mm.
it can start to define you and perpetuate
Yeah.
the negativity. No, and that was somewhere where I almost found myself. That, you know, when we were talking before about how, you know, the sensory overload and kind of those negative associations, that was another reason why I felt like I was in a loop of
A hamster,
probably-
a hamster wheel. Like,
oh, don't.
I no, I only
You
say
went for it.
no, I only say it because like my growing up, I was called a hamster. But it was actually
rude.
funny. Yeah, my granddad called me the hamster, like horrible hamster.
way.
And that's what he only called me, hamster. Like, he never called me anything else.
I should have got more ham jokes, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't really know. I never really got jokes, but
I didn't get as many. I think I got more nicknames because nobody could pronounce my last name rather than my first name.
I used to just, in high school. That's probably when I went by Mush.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
like,
got some people
hey,
calling me
Mush.
mushy.
Just Mush. Like, I mean, I hated it at the big. I don't really like. That's kind of an era. Like, I don't know who called me Mush. Like, someone does call me Mush, and I was just like, okay, that's not a name. I think it wasn't like, I don't know what it was. Like, on the way to the bus or something. Like, hey, Mush.
You like
And I was like,
pinpointed
you're
the
not-
exact time when it started.
Yeah, no, it really affected me. Yeah, like, I'm trying to put it into that little black box somewhere in the ocean. But I think like the thing is, like, I know I digress with the whole hey Mush things and nicknames, but retrospectively, like what I just did and what we've all just done is like retrospectively looked at things.
Yeah.
But it's like being able to do that can actually, like, it can be confronting, but like there's certain dimensions or certain perspectives you can go. You can decide how far back you go, how deep you go, but you're kind of writing your own thesis at every single waking moment. But there are experiences that like kind of change and like not define you, but like kind of monumental times of like your life where you've made a little shift that led you to this and then this and this. But retrospectively looking at anything is a skill set in itself.
Yeah.
Because it can be quite confronting because people are kind of striving to not look behind, if you know what I mean, but run away from it.
Yeah.
It's not to say that it's the right thing to do. I don't know. Like, what
It's
do you
not
think
right
about
or
that?
wrong, and it takes and it takes any given amount of time to
Figure?
process things like that. You know? Like, I found that there was like a nihilistic tendency where I would always, like I'd use that as a source of inspiration almost in a negative way. Like I was saying, I'd almost perpetuate a negative because I'd look back and almost in a pessimistic way,
You look back at your life
I-
in
yeah,
a lens,
exactly.
like you had sunglasses
Because,
on, not
yeah.
normal.
What's
eyes.
the opposite of rose tinted? Because
yeah.
I had a lot of amazing positive memories, but there was something in my life, I don't know what it was, but I just always look back and I would focus on all of these negative, I wouldn't say traumatic, but negative experiences.
It'd be
that
hard to find
changed
those
me.
glimmers of
Yeah.
sunshine.
Yeah.
Even though
Even though they've got like multiple
ones.
Yeah.
But it was
all of the glimmers,
and that's probably like where
And-
you've made that change to be able to have that time
Yeah.
of taking away the noise and the clutter and the distractions or whatever to actually focus. Do you feel that like you're in more control? Not control, but like you're in more. You know yourself more than you
I
ever
feel
have
like,
now.
you need the space to be able to understand what
is in your head.
paths your brain is taking that lead you there, and then take a different one. You need to understand your own
psyche.
thinking,
Yeah.
and you need to be able to be like, okay, this is going down a route that I need to consciously change.
Have you heard of like a SWOT analysis before?
Yeah, definitely. Yep. Strengths, weaknesses.
Opportunities, threats.
Yeah.
Such an underrated like tool. Like doing mini SWOT analysis is actually kind of a good like kind of gauge point of just because like every day like you experience different things. It's not to say that you have to do a SWOT analysis. It sounds so heavy, but I mean, like if you
like
create
there's different ways.
you have to, yeah, but you have to create your own. You have to create space for you to be able to do that because, like as you said, like if you're in this like cycle of just eat, sleep, repeat, create, but you haven't, you're not taking a rest to
exactly
do it. Which like I'm guilty of that because I get like energy from like creating stuff, but then I know now, and with my bipolar, and it was probably the turning point for me.
Yeah.
I always had it. Like, it made so much sense. Like, just the way that I was, like, psyche. That, like, there'll be times that I'll go super high, and I'll just keep going, and then I'll burn out, and I'll get, like, ugh.
Yeah.
But then, when I became more aware of it, it allowed me of, like, okay, I'm conscious that I have this. So when I go high, I know when to stop.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I didn't know when to stop because
Don't
I
go
just
too
didn't
close
know.
to the sun.
Well, yeah, I just, like, it was, like, I kind of put speed limits on myself. But it was, like, again, it was, like, structure. Like, it was, like, what you were saying earlier about when people were strict with their time. It's, like, being strict with, they know what they're going to output, like, what they aspire to do or impact or whatever. But what are the guardrails and what's the foundation? What's the table look like?
Yeah, I think it's, like, exactly.
So what's the foundations?
Focusing on the little things, the consistencies, rather than the peaks and the troughs.
The big things. The big things can seem massive, but like sometimes even the small
break
things.
them down.
Yeah, break them down to small things and manageable things. So like,
that's. I was very guilty of that.
I was guilty
little
of that
things
too,
became massive things, and then massive things
were colossal. Elephants.
Yeah, exactly.
That just like constantly with you, though. Because that was it's so cool that like this is probably the first. I wouldn't say it's the first. Like every sort of Kiwi's different, bro. Like. Because that's exactly the point. Every single sort of Kiwi is different. That's the point I'm trying to make with everything because everyone has different sponges or use of it. But it's cool that we've been able to like talk about a lot of this stuff so openly and transparency because, I mean, we share similarities from a birthplace, name. Earlier, probably the first
Dunedin
thing.
is weird, and it's only going to a place like Whangarei where I realise it's weird.
Do you find, like, this is a question, like
this is about to be me begging on Dunedin for like 10 minutes.
Do it. Like, this is what I was going to ask. Like, did you, within your journey, because I felt it when I left, because you went after, you was in Dunedin, and then you went to Melbourne, eh?
Yeah.
But did you go to Melbourne as a way of like, yo, I just need to get out of here? Like, there isn't this sense, back then, was there a sense of like, because it wasn't like kind of the thing, like people stayed there, but like it was quite rare to kind of like be bold and like, I'm going to go somewhere totally different. Like I felt like there was only a fair few people.
There was a group of people, like hipsters, basically, and they'd just go Wellington, Melbourne, and then either veer off to Berlin, London,
Wherever.
That was the stepping stones.
Yeah. Did you use Melbourne as a way to like just switch it up? Not escape Dunedin. I'm not saying that, but just a change of scenery.
I
didn't even know
I was
why
comfortable in Dunedin, but all of my friends left, and
you're like,
I didn't really have an identity without a squad around. So I was just like, I might as well go. Also, my girlfriend at the time really wanted to travel. And I've realised that I don't really like travelling at all.
So like unless you wanted to go travelling overseas.
Yeah,
but that was kind of like
not even that. I just don't appreciate it half as much as 90% of people.
And when you say travelling like outside of New Zealand.
Yeah, even within New Zealand, I'm just like
staying.
Yeah. Because I don't know. I'm one of those people who likes to curate, my environment.
Your own vibe.
Yeah.
That works best for you.
Yeah, and I'm not saying because like I try and get out of the house every day because coding isn't a very outside endeavor, and
quite an isolating
music
screen.
production isn't an outside endeavor either. So I try and get outside every day
for other sort of like natural forms of inspiration and energy or colours.
But like I feel as though, to me, like I I always try and find connection with people, regardless of where in the world they are. You know?
Yeah, just people as people.
Just people.
story.
And you say that as well.
Yeah.
You know, you always try and find there's depth to literally everyone. You know, I think it's that word sonder,
Yeah.
where it's like everybody has their own backstory, everybody has their own aspirations.
Well, everyone has like a purpose where they're trying to gun for. And
Literally
everyone-
everybody. Why is everybody, you know, like, and I understand that different cultures can help you reflect on you differently, but I don't know. Like, for me, I would like to go somewhere and live there for like a month or two and really get to know somebody. I don't find much fulfillment in going to a place for a week, taking some photos.
And shopping or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting some fake Ralph Lauren from a market, you know.
Yeah.
To be honest, I would care more about who I'm traveling with. But then
At the same
why
time.
would that need to be changed by a setting?
Yeah, hard. That's what someone asked me, and this is probably the first time I'm going to say it, but like, I don't even really told many people that I'm leaving my job, but I'm doing it for like a clear reason. It's like, I already feel this urge, and this is me. It's like, if once you find what drives you and what you want to do, just follow it. Like, I've never really been a massive like OE overseas thing. I just don't know what it is. Like, I'm just a very much like, I want to have aspirations going overseas. So these places like America, South America, some Europe stuff. But like, I just know that I can go there later on, like something to build towards. Like, I'm not in a rush to go.
Yeah,
like,
I'm
not
probably
trying
going to
to
be on a cruise ship later on, and I'll have those things maybe.
I don't know. I'll like go over and like buy a tent and I'll sleep under the stars somewhere. Like, but I'm not in a rush to do it. Like, I feel like for me, there's so much of this country that I want to just like vibe up, like for me, but it's my decision. Like, I'm not listening to anyone else. I used to like feel like, okay, even me moving up to Auckland was kind of like, oh, it's the thing. Like, sweet. And at the time, like the girlfriend that I was with, like she had family up here and I followed up. And if I didn't do that, if I didn't branch out and take that risk, because I didn't even have a plan, I just kind of went with the vibe. Wasn't the nicest vibe, but I learnt to be a bit more resilient through all the process. And that's probably one thing that I want to talk to, brother. It's like, I talk to a lot of people about like the theme of resilience and that linked with like your own like development and understanding like your own resilience as an individual and like your ability to kind of act on the spot, but also like know yourself. I don't know, you get what I'm saying? It's like the power of resilience. Have you found like the value of being a resilient individual? Sometimes it's a hard journey to get there, but like what does that mean to you? Like the word resilience or any of that sort of stuff?
I find that I don't really appreciate it. Just a curveball.
And you mean like I don't appreciate it.
Like to me, like there's
to you?
like exactly.
Yeah.
Then break it down. So like for me, there's power in vulnerability. There's a massive power and openness and vulnerability.
Yeah.
And in a truly, safe space, you shouldn't have to be resilient.
That's what I was going to say, because like,
that's
what I was going to say. It's like
when
the
you
pressure of being
older,
resilient.
You see people getting older, and you see like basically two things: either they're hardened, resilient, and they object to change. They kind of
they're
get more
hard,
introverted.
but they're hard-boiled eggs, but they're gooey in the inside. But they just need to be.
But like it takes too long for people to, and as you get older, you lose friends and
hard.
And
that's
it's
why,
like
say,
it's
the
one
whole
of those
resilience
things
thing
where
is
it's
interesting.
It's
just
like
interesting.
I appreciate resilient people, and I hope I make the effort to get to know resilient people, but I hope that I also help them open up so they don't have to be.
Because resilience, I find it's like such a negative word, but like any word, like not any word, but like I look at resilience not necessarily as a negative word.
That's my definition.
Yeah, but everyone has a different definition,
Absolutely.
But like I respect that definition because like
that's one of the problems of the typical Southern man that I had
like when you drive down, say, like when
That's
you drive in
that's-
Central Otago and he's
Yeah,
wearing
that's what
stubbies on a
that's-
farm, and there was like
but
that rugged.
that was something that was an archetype for a reason. That was something to be.
That was like
that was the goals. for a lot of
hard-working,
people down
blood,
south.
sweat, and tears. Yeah.
And it was only
There was a lot
later
about
on
DNA,
in
yeah.
reflection that it was just like, and obviously there's, in the last decade or two, there's been ongoing conversations about mental health and being open about it.
Especially with males, eh?
Yeah, especially with males. Yeah, absolutely. But it's like that was like counterintuitive to what we were brought up with as the archetype.
Yeah, and I
And
think
that was one of the things about the South that I really didn't appreciate.
down on itself, just that like kind of very like
And I know
brick
that it
and mortar
happens
mentality.
everywhere, but in Dunedin, that was our version of a hardened masculine male. Was just like
yeah, it was
Southern man
trade, yeah,
tradies,
this.
yarns.
It like to be creative,
And I fall back on that. I still have those fucking shit Southern yarns. Like I have a tool belt of shitty Southern yarns.
Yeah, but that's like part of DNA.
But I
like,
try and balance it out.
yeah. It's like I have a like a how do I say it? It's like I'm not defined by like being Southern, but there are like values that I take from it
Yeah.
in terms of where like kind of some of my drive. However, it's kind of like Southern sensibilities. No, not sensibilities.
Mm.
What? Yeah, I'm trying to see the word. It's like when you say it's like Southern sensibility, but like a global understanding or like a wider understanding.
Yeah,
Have
absolutely.
you get what I mean? Like you can be the values that you outside a hardened thing. Like every archetype has like some values that you would aspire to be, like positive wise, not like about like being hard or anything like that, because that's bullshit. Like just like in terms of I don't know, like it's not unique to anywhere. Like there's values about like being just cool and friendly, like and just I don't know, like not uptight. Like it's not like a value. It's just like kind of I don't know, like you decide to be like that, or you just are. But one thing I was kind of tangent around, but
Oh, we love them.
I love them. But like being creative back when we were growing up in primary school, like even in the 90s, right?
Mm.
Wasn't really, I felt that it wasn't really a thing. Like it was very much sport. Like
Yeah.
if you did art,
But
like
it's one of
it
those
was a kind of an
things-
easy way out. But actually, it's just expressing yourself.
It's one of those things
Right.
that once again I'm going to
Do it.
bag on Dunedin.
Do it.
It was like you either did sport or trade, you
Yeah.
know, and there wasn't a lot of room. You're either
anything else.
like a nerd or a jock, or you're basic, and there wasn't really much room
And
for
this-
maneuvering.
And this basic in the middle thing.
And especially as like a brown person,
Mm.
literally, it was like either you're like a prospect, or you're like a goody good jock. You're either, and it was like
Yeah.
there wasn't a lot of room to maneuver. There wasn't a lot of depth of character or like any kind of role models where
They were doing things differently. back
that
then.
weren't totally defined by their identity as a Pacific Islander or a Maori.
Did you think that like that's
And maybe that was my that was my view when I was being brought up.
and is that where you probably like gravitated to like artists?
Yeah, well,
Like, in terms
because the
of,
one
like,
person
the
I had
out-
was my dad,
Yeah.
who was like a jazz guitarist, as well as having a PhD in
Mm.
statistics.
So that
So
balance of
shout-outs,
that,
yeah.
the balance of like
And also
academic
like
and creative.
unusually liked Akira Kurosawa and Star Trek. You know, like it
Yeah.
was like my biggest influence.
Yeah.
But like at the same time, I thought he was an anomaly because everyone I was surrounded by was just like, that's one of the pitfalls of education. It's just like, what's your passion? Okay, that defines you now. You know, like pursue
Yeah.
that to the nth degree, and that's your one defining feature now.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of room to be like, well,
I want to try this or
yeah, I want to
not happy-
leave high school
I'm not happy here.
as
but
a
like-
multifaceted human. You know, like
Yeah, it's that box, circle, triangle, whatever thing. Like, it's, I don't know. Like, we're so far removed from it. However, we're studying. We've accepted like tuition into the school experience now. That's what we live by now. Like that's what we're doing every day. So
and once again, like that take that with a grain of salt, because you know how I view my upbringing is, once again, like sometimes it can be a bit pessimistic.
like what you were saying, that's like when you look back at stuff and you're like,
and
that
when you're
negative
younger,
stuff.
you have a very limited view. You know, it takes a lot of hindsight and retrospection to really realize the kind of areas that you could have explored more. You know?
Yeah, hard.
But it's when you realize that you're just like, okay, now I can and make good on that. Basically, now I can make the effort where I lacked it in the past.
Hard, and I think that's like, no, there's a massive respect, bro.
Word.
Word.
And that's why I
because
really
I love
appreciate
that shit. I love that shit because like it's not said enough. Like it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay not to be okay. Like, but it's okay just to be you. Like individuality is like something that is the only thing that you have. Like when you're by yourself, like that's where I find when I've had like many times, and this is maybe because my psyche is like only child, where I would be very comfortable by myself. However, it would be always lonely. But then I do get energy from other people, but I like being by myself. Yeah, in my own process.
And I'm like almost the opposite because I grew up with like 3 sisters who are really social. Yeah. I like always need people around. And I'm like almost like a serial monogamous. I'm always in a relationship, right?
You always have to have.
I always need like some
vibe,
something to like. It's like I don't know if it's like an insecurity or a lack of kind of like how I view myself. But I almost like can't trust my own point of view. I need like a trusted
advisor.
I need an advisor. Yeah, and it's not like I you know I'm not saying I need somebody to pull the weight. You know, I don't need. I make the effort where it's necessary, so it's a balance, and I help her when she needs help and blah blah blah. Blah.
Well, it's like
teamwork. I just need
exactly. It's collaborative. It's that's one thing that like we're having like meetings, just who was with the boys last night about like where things have gone to now. Like we kind of like talk about these different things, but back in high school it was always back in school or younger, like in the 90s, it's like very much like it's competitive. Like you had to have your own like thing. Like it's like you didn't really like share experiences a huge amount. Like you didn't do a huge amount of collaboration apart from in the playground. Like cool, but like now like we live in this world like it's encouraged to collaborate and like build relationships that are meaningful and like learn from each other. From really all good. Sort of things internally as well as like learning skills.
Grow together, like interdependence. It's really good.
Yeah, and it's that
because that's the only way how we'll push forward.
100%. Because like if you think about like, and this is where you kind of touched on it, like outside of your dad, like influences, like because there are people who are expressing their art for other people to like learn from, and then they're able to create something to do whatever. Like I know like there's certain artists maybe like growing up that you listen to or different vibes or different genres, but. And it's hard because like sometimes influences for me, bro, and I've talked to a lot of other like people on the whole show, is influences isn't just a type of person. It's not even a person. It could be something like what are like you
a concept?
A concept. Like what gives you that like kind of like creative juice? If you get what I mean, like what is it that you look to for inspiration to even start your journey? Like, what got you into what you were doing?
Blade Runner.
Oosh. Fire. Is it just like just in terms of like music and
honestly,
just aesthetic and all that sort of stuff?
Everything, yeah. There was something like...
Because you incorporate that in a lot of your like cover art as well. Like you have like a lot of the cars and then just that style.
Like the weird intersection of like film noir and science fiction. Like classic and...
That
forward
vapor
thinking.
Wavy sort of like distinctive, but
but like also
relatable.
Like you're an old school detective in a science fiction universe. Like you're
the relatability in a sci-fi world. It isn't Star Wars and Star Trek. It was
it was always like science fiction was always a theme because it was like people's excuse to basically shred modern day problems under the guise of it being like a fantasy universe.
Yeah. But you think about Blade Runner, that's like someone just driving around in a Tesla now or something.
Yeah. It's it's not. It's these multiple undercurrents of like the materialism of our society, how we're destroying the world for our own ego. Like heaps of stuff.
Yeah.
But even further than that, when I was making music for a good amount of time, how I like kind of started my stuff off and was like, I would always picture myself in like a post-apocalyptic kind of scenario, in like a bleak future, because at the time, that's kind of how I viewed life in general.
That's why
it was dark, man.
That's why I like that Deltron 3030 album.
Yeah.
Because it's like set in the year 3030 in a post-apocalyptic world.
That's why I like
but it's concepts, like concepts of like transporting you to somewhere that like doesn't exist, but it's created from nothing. Like it's this world that like feels like safe, or I don't know, like you.
It was weird. Like it was like a weird, like maybe it influenced me more than I know, but like there was a weird comfort in just like there's nothing outside anymore. Like
it's like
you have to make your own comfort.
Yeah.
Like
that's what I was like saying about the whole only child thing. It's like even if you're only child or you like have like sisters and all that sort of stuff and like decent big family and people around, there are times when it's just like by yourself, and it's like what you do in those times that can be like quite like a learning thing. Like where do you? For me, like when I'm by myself, like someone asked me this the other day, and I was just like, when I'm my happiest, it's like when I'm in my car driving to a destination. Like I've got a goal of going down to Auckland to Welly, but like I don't know how I'm gonna go there, but I'm gonna like make it up as go along. Like the destination is there, and then I'm gonna like be inspired by turning down this one road because I just feel like it, and yada yada yada, or the music that I'm listening to, whatever. That's when I'm at my happiest. Like it's like utopia to me. But like even when I'm like go back down to Dunedin, because I resented like Dunedin. I never wanted to go back because I was just wanted to go back with something to prove. But then that was something of like I was predisposed to this idea that I had to come back with something, I was already something, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
It was weird. Like it was this pressure that I put on myself.
It's one of those things, though. It's like, well, that's coming home with something. It doesn't need to be something you've built.
No,
maybe it's something you found in yourself. Yeah,
exactly. Right, and it takes a while to come to that. Yeah, it's coming normal to be like that now. Well, not be like that. I mean, what am I trying to say? But like, it's not material stuff. It's like coming with you sharpen your sword a little bit, or I don't know, like you've learned something.
Do you know?
Like I don't know.
Do you know what I find annoying? Right.
What's that?
And it's something like you grow up, right, and you're trying to be a fucking edgelord, right? When you're younger,
edgelord.
You're trying to be like a troll, like it just. You're
trying to just be edgy.
You're just trying to get all of the lingo right. You're trying to nail your New York accent. You're trying you're trying to be edgelord 101.
Yeah, you're trying to be.
You're trying to be Young Lean 2001, but like it's like when you talk about mental health and vulnerability and all of that shit, and when you're writing it down, you come across a lot of like things you've encountered in the past. Like everyone views it as like almost like lame and basic, and all there's like.
I mean, like the stuff you write down as lame and basic, or
no, like and when you're talking about it, they're just like, oh, there they go again.
You're ranting about your problems or something.
Yeah. It's just like somebody else who's just being open. It's just like and it's like if you were in a good place and all you want to listen to is Clubhouse, and then you hear somebody talking about being open with your feelings, you're going to be like, oh, that's pretty basic. Like
you mean like that's where it's come to now, like the openness of like everyone's been open, so it's become basic. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying like if you're not in the space where you need to be vulnerable, then you can view it as like a weakness, I guess.
Got you. Yeah. Where it's not seen, it's been seen as a weakness for so long, but it's actually a strength.
And like a lot of it, and it was so strange because it was like you can be angry but not sad.
It was okay to be angrier, but you couldn't be sad because there was you were hopeless being
You're allowed to be like angry. You're allowed to make like Kiwi music, but when it came to like being vulnerable, it was viewed as just like. That's why I liked the Wellington scene.
because
Because, like,
it
you could actually
enabled
just-
you to be who
You could actually just be like, I'm going through some shit and it sucks.
and I'm going to write something about it, and I'm just going to.
That's why I was just
Express it
like,
through art,
I'm
yeah.
blessed being surrounded by those homies, because like I wouldn't have been able to process it, vocally if I didn't have that.
You didn't
scene
have like
at
didn't have
that
the scene
time,
of
yeah.
like people in the vibe, because it's like if you were just by yourself in your room, you'd be
Yeah.
limited to that
And-
box that
yeah.
you could create for yourself, but like you're not like getting other experiences
like,
or other perceptions.
Yeah,
like,
because like I guess
perspectives.
if I had influences growing up, like even like it wouldn't be specific people. I guess like Saul Williams was a big influence.
oh yeah,
Kind of more spoken word stuff. Trent Reznor,
yeah.
Lorne.
Mm.
But like I would always gravitate towards kind of more emotional songs from people who weren't traditionally. So like for instance, Timbaland Magoo, Hold On.
Yeah,
You know that song?
yeah,
Featuring Wyclef Jean.
yeah.
That song was like it was on
Fire.
one of my basically all of my playlists, because it was talking about being more vulnerable and being more open. And then the next song would just be another
Slapper.
straight bang.
It's a slapper, yeah,
But it was
yeah,
like the moment of respite when I needed it,
yeah.
And I guess when I tried to explore what I was drawn to creatively, those were the ones where I felt like I wasn't just regurgitating the latest trap music.
Yeah. That's why I find like
And that's
it's,
why I was like-
it's substance, versus like
That's why everybody has their particular view on the world, and everybody has their problems they're dealing with, and even the most like sheltered person with the best upbringing probably has like
things.
some really valid things that they are dealing with.
Well,
you know?
everyone has their like. This is where like I'm
that's-
quite. I have a view of like
That's why
like
it's like,
everyone has their own like things that they're dealing with, but like just because it's like someone who's like these are super extremes, but like someone who's like born in poverty versus someone who's like in a rich life, it's like not more money, more problems, but there's problems for that person that mean the world
It's
to
all
them. You know what I mean?
perspective-based.
It's all,
Yeah.
but it's all relative. Like
Exactly.
in that world, they came into that world, but then they still have their own struggles of relativity within that.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's, you have to respect people's own like individuality.
That's when it's like don't comparing struggles is not going to get anybody anywhere. Just helping people through struggles.
talking about struggles and understanding why it's a struggle and providing like guidance, like that's more constructive than disregarding the struggle and not wanting to hear it or
Yeah.
not hearing someone out.
Yeah.
In other words, like that's fire, man.
Because I remember, because like I've been to like a few therapists over the years,
Mm.
and that helped. But then like at a point, I'd always kind of like be like, I don't know if they're diminishing my experience, trivializing my problems because they're not as, like
They're not in tune to
Yeah,
you
they're-
as much as you are.
well, they're not as heavy as they used to maybe. And it was like, but
Yeah.
that they're things that I really can't overcome. And so I'd just go to somebody else.
Yeah. But like, at least you're going to other people.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like
Oh yeah,
you were still talking to people.
yeah.
Like you're
Well,
finding.
it's one of those things.
You're
Like
finding your
I
consultants. In
really
any place.
like. I'm just like, if you need somebody who's, because, like I was saying, how like I'd always been in a relationship, and I realized pretty soon that like you can't go to your partner with all of your problems. They've got their own problems. You need somebody outside the relationship.
Yeah, and that's where like I value.
You don't want to put unnecessary pressure on something that should,
Yeah, like it's what I have value and like good respect for. Like I don't know if this term existed, but I have like bro and sis consultants, right?
Oh yeah, deaths.
You know, man, I call them that. Like Ryan Johnson, aka Should Be Sweet, is like top tier bro consultant for me because he's
Yeah.
probably the one that knows me a lot. Even Uppy to a degree, bro, because even though we haven't really like seen each other physically, he's the one who knew me when I was in that free state, which when you're a kid, it's kind of like really like when you're like super free as an adult, that you kind of you go back to that kind of feeling.
Yeah.
From my perspective, he knows who I am. So like when I get his honest
Bro,
opinion on stuff, like he knows me
I
because
had
he
a-
grew up with me. You know what I mean?
I had a conversation the other day where like friendships, man, they should be 10 times more valued than they are. Because like,
But real friendships, though, not surface level stuff.
yeah, almost.
But like, it takes. I'd rather be
But like the
friends
only
with
way
10
that
people.
it can graduate from surface level to actual
Is to
friendship is if you prioritize,
put the time in it, yeah.
appreciate them for what they are.
Yeah,
Because
put
it's
the
like
time.
in partner, in like romantic relationships, regardless of how open and communicative you are, there are going to be things that you just can't be 100% about all of the time
hard.
without just basically being destructive.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And so who's the person you're going to go to when you want to be 100 about that shit? And that's your friend. You know, whether it be your family member or your best friend. Like, and that's like, you know, like a 100% safe space where you can talk about anything 100%.
100%, bro.
That's like, friendships should be 10 times more valued than they are.
Yeah.
And that's why I appreciate like my squad, family, you know.
Yeah, and I appreciate I just appreciate time. Like time is my I've learned that time is like currency for me to, like the material things of like money and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, you can use money to be able to impact more people or yourself, but I've really learned that like giving someone like a minute or like 5 minutes or 10 minutes, like that's like I've learned that currency is kind of my main value exchange. Like understanding your value exchange is like I like doing that. Like I'm happy around to sit down and give people like my whole day. But of course I need like if I do that I probably need to like take like 2 days off. I have to take 2 days off, but like you know what I mean?
You're going to
Or
be
a day
paying
off.
rent with that value.
If you know what I mean. No, but like I can't like do that all the time.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like I like to sit down and give people time or listen and understand, and even if it was 5 minutes, like that 5 minutes might actually like just like be all they need to just push through, or I don't know, I just give them a hinge to open up that door or whatever, like that tool or that time, or I don't know.
Give them a hinge.
Give them a hinge to open the door, like I don't know.
Not the doorknob.
Not the doorknob, but it's already got a doorknob on it, bro. Like, don't judge my doors. Like,
I didn't know if the metaphor accounted for doorknobs.
I don't know, but you kind of get what I mean.
No,
That's
definitely,
like,
definitely.
you know, like, what's your like?
That's that, but yeah.
It's that thing. It's like,
It's like fucking 100% like friendships when you can take your mask off more than
yeah, you can be like
a romantic
super,
relationship. That's like,
bit of balance, eh?
yeah, how the hell are you gonna shred that? And it's one of those things that's like, I remember I had some weird conversation. I brought it up in a track, but it was like those random like love languages, right? Like five love languages.
Yeah,
As lame as the concept may be to some people.
it's true.
It's one of those things where it's like, you know, it's like material, and then acts of service, and then words of affirmation, and then quality time. I forget the last one because it's obviously not as relevant.
I get what you mean, though. Like,
But I think for me, it was like quality time is definitely like up there, along with words of affirmation, because you know, conversationalists. And then I'd assume it's similar for you.
yeah,
but like,
you mean like words of affirmation from you receiving words of affirmation, or you
both.
giving them? A bit of both, eh?
yeah, a bit of both.
Yeah,
It goes
yeah.
both ways.
But
I'd
balance,
like to
eh?
say.
But for
Because you
different
can't
people
just
for
be
different
like
reasons.
wanting to receive and not giving it out.
Yeah, hard.
You can't be like one way.
You can't be just be like going to the bank and just taking
Yeah,
heaps
yeah,
of money
yeah.
and then not expecting to like pay any sort of interest, because it's just like, I don't know, that's just silly. Like, what's the anime, Full Metal Alchemist? You seen that before?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I didn't
so
get
the
through
power,
all of Brotherhood though, because I watched the
Brotherhood.
original like a few
Yeah.
times before I watched it. So.
yeah, but like
No
just
offense.
that. But again, it's just that power of equivalent exchange.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
like I kind of work on that model. Like it's kind of, well, I try to. I mean, if I was to do everything, I would try my
I
best
do.
to do
It's
that.
it's almost created problems in the past because I've been like, you know, there's more shallow relationships, and I'm just like, wow, you ain't putting in, bro. So
Yeah, it's
I'm gonna have
later.
to cut off the dead meat right here.
I'm gonna
son.
have to take the umbilical cord off of like
and-
this
and
time. Yeah.
People would just assume that, you know, like I'm quite shallow, but it's like if you want to, you know, make music, then we'll make music together. If you want to converse
About
further than
real
that,
stuff,
then let's do that. But I'm not going to put in what I don't get out. And
hard.
I've got my friends who I can talk 100% with, and I'm totally open to any and all conversations. But at the same time, like,
What's the
if
value
you ain't
exchange?
contributing that, then I'm not going to do all of the work. Bro?
Yeah, exactly.
I've had friends in the past and friends who I've tried to keep that balance up with who are definitely they're putting in more than they receive out of their friendships and stuff, and it's hard for them because it's
tiring.
it creates an imbalance for them.
It's a tiring
sucks for them.
process, bro.
Yeah.
It is a tiring process.
And so, like, I'll try and be honest, and I'll try and give it back, but I'll be honest when I can't. And so,
Yeah.
and they'd always ask for advice, and I'd be like, well, if they aren't putting in what you're putting in, then please
hard.
don't expend effort where it's not being, reciprocated 100.
I think that's what we were saying, like, probably in the first, 2 minutes when, pick you up from the spot. Sometimes it's, it's okay to say no, or,
Yeah, definitely.
or just it's to that thing,
that's
if
why I
it's been a
always
thing,
offer options.
Yeah,
I'm always like, if
we can do it.
If possible, and I'll try and make it up to you, and, whatever.
It's even
way.
this, bro. We've been, yarning for a hot minute about, stuff, but, we're not gonna, it's organic, that, I'm not, it needs to be this day, this hen, whatever. You got your own stuff to be dealing with.
Most definitely.
Sitting on this couch isn't the most important thing to me.
Yeah.
But it's worthwhile when we do link because we've been building up for it. You know what I mean?
Thing. Yeah, and I totally.
It's worth the wait.
I 100% agree with that sentiment because one of the other things.
Don't rush the process.
Yeah, one of the other things is I won't see some of my friends for years at a time. But they know that I'm
still there,
100% still there, and also I still have that insane appreciation. I'm still 100, and regardless of how a few of my values may shift, I'm still that person to them.
Yeah.
And a lot, most of my friends know that. They don't need that kind of validation all the time, and
even for us, bro,
exactly.
This is the longest conversation that we've probably had in our whole lives, to be honest, bro. Let's be real. I'm just trying to think of any
I don't know
time
if we could talk for an hour about Dragon Ball Z cards or something.
Yeah, because back then we were just I was just DBZ, whatever, blah, 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 blah.
Pokemon was pretty hot back then.
It was hot. Wheeling and dealing Pokemon cards and the beef of people going to your backpacks and stealing your Dragon Ball Z cards and you knew who it was. And
well, do you remember when we went through the phase of those things on the hubcap kind of tire?
Yeah. But you blow the ear up.
For 50 cents.
But it was selling them. It was
just go stealing
Lucky Bones, eh?
Yeah, we'd just go stealing friggin' little gold screwy things off people's ear pumps.
And you're lame if you didn't have
at least a few golds or silvers.
Oh no. There was another thing. I know we're digressing again, but this is all part of the vibe. But the bottle of
and then you make
you make the little the F bracelets or whatever. It's skills so silly.
It'd be if you snapped it, then you're gonna have sex or some shit. That's what it was. The fuck bracelets. That's it.
It was, eh? Yeah.
So cooked, bro.
It was this not gonna say names, but there was two girls that were in primary school with. It was part of his clique of that would start all these sort of things. It was buzzy. The seasons of pulp shoes and fuck bracelets and Christina Aguilera and Britney Spears. That vibe.
Absolutely.
Buzzy though, eh? But I'm just stoked that we've just been able to link up, you know what I mean? It's been fun. And we haven't really talked about the science of a lot of your music and the sound, but people, it doesn't really matter, to be honest, we're just doing our thing. Because this is it's probably important for you to hear all this journey to then get a better appreciation when we do discover your music after seeing this
absolutely.
Or other way around.
Exactly.
If you know what I mean, I understand the drivers.
If
so good.
If there's one thing about my tunes, it's that I don't want it to be one dimensional. You know, so that's like,
yeah, it's boring.
and I hate people who over explain it because everybody's going to get their own thing out of it. And like diversity is I wouldn't say it's a strength, but it's something I definitely
do
commit to.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
you know, I'm not going to even pretend like, you know, I want it to be defined by some kind of, you know, artist biography character kind of thing, because
It's not.
ever developing, ever changing. And I honestly, I feel sorry for people who get defined by like one genre. Like they have to literally characterize.
Like
and
Nas, you're
stick to
Illmatic, and
this.
you can only do
Yeah,
Illmatic,
yeah.
and you have
And
to
it's
do
like-
that sound. I mean, sweet.
And it's like, and that's why I openly respect people who explore.
Gender
everything.
blondies and anything.
Yeah. And because like, you know, like as you're actually like, I know I don't have like a massive fan base or whatever, but it's like it's rough if as a fan you expect the exact same thing every time. Like that's
Nah.
that's like a harsh pressure to put on an artist, man.
Well,
Like-
there was the whole thing. Like I probably like talked about heaps of like these kind of artist conversations. Like I talk about all these all the time because I can nerd out. But for me, there was like two artists. No, there's three artists actually. I put three artists in.
I'm sure
like-
you could put 10.
Probably, but I just and this again. This is
We
just
don't have
my
the time.
bias. Don't have the time. It could do, but like, I just it was a certain era for me, and it was probably again like when I get into that late high school kind of university stage when I'm really delving into music.
2004 was a good year.
Just that era, but for me, I find these three artists. Like, I mean, people can't see it, but like, I'm just a stan of like Kid Cudi.
Yeah.
But like, some people were just like, "Oh, you're on a Cudi wave," but I was like, "Nah." Like, I just like that music because he was kind of really the first artist that I actually discovered from the beginning to now and see the journey. But like, the sounds were so atmospheric, and then like
And he definitely
soundscaping.
explored.
different genres and
Yeah,
sounds
his
and just
freaking-
vulnerability.
his, you know, Day and Night got famous because there was also an electro version. You know, like that's straight off the bat. You know,
But
the
Day and
Christmas
Night was
remix.
like blew up first in Australia.
Yeah,
Because he
exactly.
came over on tour and it blew up. And then the Crookers remix. I mean,
And then,
you
you know,
listen
if
to
you've
it at
got two
Monkey Bar
versions
and
of the
shit.
song,
Yeah.
and they're both fire. That's like credit to
Yeah.
Kid Cudi's genius.
But then like, it was like Cudi for me. I mean, it was Kanye and like Lil Wayne around that era, like 2008 era. I've talked about it like Kanye dethroned like 50 Cent gangster rap, and then
But that's
you
one of
needed
those,
that. You not dethroned it, but kind of was the contrast of that at that time. But then he did Graduation, which was kind of the end of his high school. And what did he do? He didn't do like, I don't know, first day job or whatever. He did 808s and just completely like switched it.
Well, I reckon,
Like-
I'm biased, but I reckon it's because he was a producer first.
Yeah,
He had more
hard,
confidence exploring those other sounds.
hard. And that's probably the thing that's like being able
That's
to
the same
create
with like
sounds.
why I appreciate J-Liv and stuff.
Yeah,
And they can
hard. But they're the ones that are doing the soundscapes for
unrestrained,
people to be able to do stuff. Yeah,
exactly.
and I
And
think
that's the
that's
same
power
reason
of
why
it.
like people like Kerry Hilson and Neo and all of them blew up, because they were writing songs for other people. It's the same reason
It's like
why
Dream.
Party Next Door
Yeah.
is one of my favorites.
Hard party.
Dream.
Yeah.
They're writing songs for other people that are blowing up like
Yeah.
hell.
I like
They
the
don't need
producer
to fit
songwriter
because
stuff.
they already, you know, like he wrote Work, you know,
Like
and like
part-
he's making money off that. So he
and
doesn't need
parties
to
are like,
stick
if
to
you
a
listen
damn
to like
sound.
the Party Next Door work demo, oh bro, it's so fire. Like I listened to that like kind of like a couple of
Do you
weeks
know-
ago, and it was just like it sounded better. Like,
Yeah.
but again, it's just like I just got value of the people who create the melody and the cadence or whatever, and then
I was
they're like,
watching-
hey, I'll give this to you because you're gonna sound better on it, and you're obviously gonna change your life.
Yeah.
Dope. It's like a token, like it's giving.
Yeah.
It's not like thinking that he's like the man. I mean, like trying to be whatever. Like it's not collaboration. Like
It was insane
know?
how Kanye ended up dropping some fire verses. His verses were actually just like
just in general.
insanely, it's like hilarious, witty, you know, social
Yeah.
commentary.
Yeah, hard.
They were brilliant. Like
Yeah,
I'm
hard.
I can honest, like I'm honest about how like my lyrics aren't my strength. but
Kanye
was
your vibe,
insane.
yeah,
Like I like to focus on like the ambience and the feel,
the environment that you're creating within the sound, because you have different sounds as well, right? Like, and you got different kind of avenues where you express different kind of like things. Like you've got like
exactly, like I said,
I don't want to like.
consistency is going to get even worse
But
as I
that's
make
cool
more
though.
stuff.
But it's cool though, like, because you've got like Scapegoat Mercy, and that's kind of like first and foremost. That is everything that's like from producing everything that you. Is it everything that you hop on? Not everything
That
you hop
too.
on is
Yeah.
produced by you, but like
Most of it.
most of it, eh?
Most of it starts as me making the beat.
And
No,
then you
I
create
don't
your
think
own.
I've actually jumped on something that I didn't make the beat.
Like you get high on your own supply, sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're kind of like 2008 Lil Wayne, Carter 3, just listening to yourself.
Do you know
not
who's
to that.
underrated with variety?
that?
Well, not underrated at all. Kendrick. I was listening to an interview about Kendrick. But then I was thinking, it was one of those things.
So
And
where
it
did he
goes
come
back,
from? He came from Outkast and Andre.
Yeah. But it's like, Andre 3000 is a god. But it's
Uh-huh.
like also like, Kendrick is a testament to, like, if he didn't blow up, then he wouldn't have felt confident doing anything but gangster rap, basically. Because he started off doing freestyling stuff.
Yeah.
If he didn't have the financial backing, then he wouldn't have made 680 and then branched off to make To Pimp a Butterfly and whatnot.
It was a collaborative family process with Teddy.
Yeah,
But
because
like he was able to be the good kid, like he was a concept. It was a concept. Like he is a good kid in a mad city. That's a concept in itself to be able to like. Blah.
Yeah, but I reckon
But
you know
his
earlier
stylistically, like
earlier
he's crazy.
he just was like doing like freestyles, you know, and like more traditional gangster rap. And if it was up to what his fans were expecting, he probably would have stayed doing
Well,
that.
he came up with like the game.
Yeah,
Like the game put J Rock and him on the LAX tour.
Yeah.
Like I'm just the game's one of my favorites. Like regardless of his personality.
but
he's
this
a
is
bit
me
of a
just
monk, but
yeah, like you know what I mean
like-
though. Like if it was up to what fans were expecting,
he would have been
just
in
made,
this.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
would
yeah.
have made that box
That box
genre.
cookie cutter
Yeah,
gangster rap.
exactly.
No offense to cookie cutter gangster rap, but
And
like,
it's not, it's you know, it's a reflection of the environment. Gangster rap is fucking amazing as well.
yeah, hard.
You know, my
Yeah, no disrespect to like
My
when I say cookie cutter, yeah.
proclivities, they kind of swerve towards more experimental shit, and that's not anything less than obvious.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, it's like any sort of music art form like grows, like the sources of information that you're drawing from or inspirations, they become greater at every waking day because there's always people creating and new sounds to be like discovered. So like, back in like, oh man, you're like Nas, what was he like from a hip hop technicality standpoint? Who was he drawing from? Like the pool was this, whereas like now, like the next Kendrick or whatever. I don't know.
Do you know what cracks me up?
What's that?
What was that Kid Cudi album that everybody loves to hate? That was like basically hardcore.
Indie Kid? Not Indie Kid. Or was it? Oh, Speeding Bullet to Heaven.
There you go.
Yeah,
And
hard.
now, what's becoming popular?
You know,
You know?
exactly that.
You know
exactly.
exactly what's-
Yeah, it's like that thrash punk.
It's like how everybody
hip-hop
took 5 years to basically reinterpret 808s and Heartbreaks.
Yeah, it's like 808s and Heartbreaks. Future
And then, like,
Future
5
Duty
years later,
Sprite
everybody
2,
embraced
House of
auto-tune.
Balloons. it's like Toronto, Atlanta, and Being Vulnerable. Like,
It's one of
it's
those.
with the sound of an
But
last
yeah,
10
Speed
years.
and Bullet to Heaven, it's basically
Takes a while, but then by then it's like, what's the next one?
yeah. If you're listening to friggin', I don't even know half the shit. Machine Gun Kelly, I don't know who makes that shit. Genesis, Wushu, whatever. his
OT
name is.
Genesis,
It's,
like I'm in love with the coca.
Nah, there's this guy, Genesis, OW,
Genesis
something like
Energy.
that. And then there's, who's the other guy who I really love, but I can't remember his name. But yeah, anyway, like they're making kind of like more hardcore punk rock influence stuff.
Mm.
And I was like, well, Kid Cudi don't like cheat.
He did it. He broke the
You've
door.
been here and you shredded him for it.
Or do you remember like Lil Wayne Rebirth?
Nah.
Yeah, no one really does. But It's interesting because it was like,
what track would I know of it?
oh,
Or
it's
is
not
that
many
the track?
remember it. No, it's the album. It was his rock album.
Oh god!
After that, no. But this
With
is the
like
thing.
Kevin, what was that?
Kevin Rudolph. Like, is that like soft
I wanna
rock?
rock.
Yeah. But like, no, but like, do you think that
And
the
he
thing?
signed Limp Bizkit to Young Money
Yeah,
Records.
yeah, and
Sorry,
Kevin
keep
Rudolph
going,
and
yep.
Jay Sean. But like, back in that like Kanye graduation era, what did he do? He went 808s and Heartbreak. Like Lil Wayne at that point was like Carter 3. He was the biggest thing since sliced bread on every
But then he
single
had
song.
his weird. Yeah. Oh,
Thing.
did he go Rebirth?
But then he
after
went
Kanye?
Rebirth afterwards.
Yeah.
Because that showed that it's not just like one
That's
thing.
that's
it's
I
something
love,
else.
I love that.
It's
If
like
that
Kid
is a
Cudi with
trend,
Speeding Building.
If that's a friggin' trend, then I am all aboard. Like where it's like you do one that's like mainstream appealing,
I mean,
and then you
something
just go off on the friggin' tangent.
you go on your mainstream A side, and then your B side is actually the one that is like sticking.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's
And
the
it's
one that you really want to do.
pressing. It's the one that's pushing the culture forward.
Yeah, that's why I think like that's why I've got massive respect for like Kanye, because every single album you're gonna check it because you don't know what he's gonna come with.
Yeah.
Like because you respect him as like what he's done.
Imagine if 5
like-
years from now people are just making Christian music. They're a gangster.
Like yeah, the like Cray and everything. It was like Grits. Do you remember Grits? Like My Life Be Like.
Ah,
My
that
Life Be
song
Like.
got played so
ooh,
often. It was on
yeah.
like Too Fast and Furious or something.
It's like
wasn't it?
edgy sort of.
Life like this. And no, I know,
I know, it's
definitely
that-
know
it's
the
that thing.
song. I almost know half the lyrics just
It's like-
because other people like that.
Yeah, it's like Grits and like kind of that era of kind of like
so
the
many-
Nux and stuff.
Was it off
And the
Need
Coop.
for Speed or something?
I think so.
Everybody liked that song. And it was the same time when like Lil Jon and Eastside Boys, all that freaking,
Crunk.
snap music was
Yeah, but this is the thing, like that birth, like
them franchise
ATL,
boys.
them franchise boys.
Oh,
I used to listen to
D4L.
them. Oh yeah, Left Taffy, yeah.
check that out.
But I like them. Like over high school, like I was like real into like that dance music because I like dancing.
Bro, it was so good. And
I
we
loved
all
it.
looked so idiotic trying to do that snap dance as well.
Snap dance, and then like
But then,
teach me
Crank
how to
That.
Dougie and Crank Dats and
Crank That was that OG kind of like, Crank That was the OG TikTok dance. Soldier Boy talks a lot of shit, but he did start some movements.
no hard. He was like the first YouTube like superstar.
He,
Like he was the
he
first
got
artist
famous
to pop
because
on
he
YouTube.
put his song. You'd look up anything Rick Ross. You'd look up a Rick Ross song and it would be Soldier Boy under a different name.
It's crazy.
And that's one of the reasons he got famous is because he put all of his shit under different names on Napster. It was the original Rick Roll.
Yeah, oh, yeah. That's fire, bro.
It's just hilarious.
But it's just like sign of times because like I think like that's where like we can remember. I talk about it like this is actually probably a cool question to you. I know we've been talking for a minute, but I mean this is just what it does. Like
Yeah, we're going to be talking for a minute, even if there's no microphone on. So might as well just.
might as well just do it. We've been doing it for a while, but
yeah,
like,
I need to piss it sometime soon.
yeah. So we'll just do it. We'll just do it, and then we'll end with a song. But like, there's probably like something to like think about. Like, we can look back to the 90s, and like it's distinctly different to like now. Like 30 years, like 15 years ago, we weren't really. I don't know. Like, internet was slow. We didn't have computers in our pockets. Like, we didn't have technology to be able to do this so easily. And then now it's like different. Like, it's just such a like interesting like being able to have that perspective.
Yeah.
Of like what it was before, but like I wonder what like people that we look at all these kids on like all this sort of stuff now, that people on social media are probably like gonna be the old school people, and the people with like VR like implants and shit are gonna be like the next wave. Like
All
it's just
about
interesting.
VR, that shit's gangster.
It is like immersive experiences there.
Yeah, it's real cool.
Which is fire. But I don't know. I just find like I'm biased because I'm 90s baby, but like I like being a 90s baby just because of like we were talking about different things like Beetleborgs and bloody like sticky TV or what those
Do you remember
eras.
that
And
Teen Wolf on Campus show?
yeah. It's like what? Like bring that shit back. Like
What was that? And the other one was, what was that hilarious one? And it was like Reboot or something. And it was all 3D. And you look back on it now, and it was so terrible. It was one of those ones that's
so
on
ahead
what
of its
now,
time.
I think.
Yeah. So ahead of its time, man. No, not
But
really.
yeah, was that going to be a question? Sorry.
I don't know. It's kind of a little bit of a thing, but it's like, what do you think is going to like happen in the next like 15? Like, if we've kind of like progressed,
I
we've had
reckon-
different like 15-year eras. Like, what do you think is going to be the sound of music, but even just
Sound of
live
music.
The
Musicals are
soundscape.
going to be really good.
the soundscape?
Musicals set in World War II, fire.
Fantasia 2030.
As long as you can get a singing Nazi, mean.
But what do you think the soundscape's going to look like in 15 years, or even just like life in
I
15
reckon-
years? What do you think if you were to kind of like?
So I reckon there will always be, the electronic scene will go even heavier
Yeah,
to the point where it's almost all industrial.
like super distortion. that is
Super industrial, yeah, because it is an escape and it's good at doing that. And then I reckon at least in the next 4 or 5 years there'll be a massive push towards actual musicality, natural instrumentation.
like actually going back to
Actual-
where it started,
yeah,
like
yeah.
Beethoven,
Like,
Mozart sort of
I
stuff.
wouldn't say classical, but I reckon there will be
Live
hopefully
instrumentation.
more kind of emphasis on modern classical music because it is insane.
Yeah, hard.
But more like, like for instance, Justin Bieber's latest song. I'm sure they made an
Yeah.
electronic version of that and then played it all on instruments.
Like we know,
And it was amazing.
yeah, hard.
And it sounds good. It sounds organic. And
Well-
he is, regardless of whether you like him or not, quite an amazingly gifted musician.
Yeah, 100%.
And so like,
But it's that vibe of
I
stripped
reckon-
down and starting from scratch in
Yeah,
a way, but like using like modern contemporary like
and
tools to be able
regardless
to
of
strip it
whether,
back.
because our generation is getting older and we consume music at the same rate,
Yeah,
like if not more. So it's like,
Yeah. This would be interesting.
yeah, I reckon it'll be a push towards more organic sounding arrangements,
Hard.
and stripped back kind of stuff. But at the same time, I'm biased because that's where I'm heading.
yeah, exactly. That's interesting now. So we've only got. I'm gonna look at it at like it's 25. Well, 1 hour 25 minutes. I've got two last things.
Thanks
So
if you lasted this long.
if you, good effort, man.
Good
Stepping up.
effort. Whoa.
Whoa.
I don't even
Yeah,
know if
she's
I'm
happy.
going to listen to it this long.
But yo, classic.
Yeah.
There you go, brother. Monumental moment of just doing this and talking some real stuff.
Yeah.
Man, not everyone comes on the couch, but like, I'm just a giver, and like, that's just it's just a cool artifact.
Oh, am I getting this?
Yeah,
No way.
yeah. Oh my god!
Thank you.
No, but like, this is kind of just like, you already know like the records, and it's not like a setup like choose a backdrop, but like, it's just I appreciate the yarns, if you know what I mean, bro, because like,
I appreciate
I
it.
get a lot of energy from it, and
Yeah,
like it's just valued, after like knowing each other for like 25 years, like we can have probably the longest conversation we've ever had in 25 years, probably like talk more in this than across that whole span. So there's this massive respect, and there's this Timbo Magoo, welcome
Timberland
to our
and
world.
Magoo, welcome to our world.
And like, why did you even choose that for the backdrop, bro? Maybe just like do a quick little like spiel as to why you chose that. Like, I know there was a lot to choose from, but why that one?
Well, Timberland is just a force in himself.
Hard.
He
Go.
changed the landscape of hip hop and R&B.
Virginia,
Yeah,
him and Frau,
yeah.
Missy.
Between him and Pharrell,
Yeah.
I reckon they just
They,
had a hand
are they
in
the
it.
goats for like hip hop and R&B to you? Without a doubt, hey.
yeah.
They're the ones who've got a massive like
without a doubt.
influence. Yeah.
But like, as a team, like him and Missy were vital in
And the
bringing
visuals,
bringing like a more experimental element to hip hop. Like really Buster and Missy, they opened the floodgates for just wild,
visual,
weird, out the
eclectic
gate stuff. Because
Yep.
you could argue that like Tribe Called Quest and all of that stuff had it already, but
Yeah, but they did
they
it on a
they
different
they
level.
didn't do it. Yeah, they didn't do it with the finesse,
Yeah.
production wise that they did it.
Yeah, hard. It's fire.
And it was like, Kanye was someone who changed the game as well.
But he
but-
came from this tree.
Yeah, exactly.
He came from these
he
seeds.
came from he embraced a culture that they helped create.
hard.
And
Easy.
that was modern hip hop, not gangster rap. And modern hip hop.
It was taking, it's pretty
So
much
like,
doing
you
everything.
think about how
Moss.
you think
like
about how modern R&B shifted when like Future Sex Love Sounds came out,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
how like all of the electronic elements that Timbaland was experimenting with just
Yeah.
totally
Changed it.
changed.
Yeah. And just that, like,
And Pharrell getting into like producing for Britney Spears, and like
yeah.
and
crazy.
Justin Timberlake again.
I think just, again, Justin
know,
Timberlake
Like I
was
Love
like,
You.
pivotal. Yeah.
when
does
that
it-
came out, I remember him, and it was like an MTV Music Awards, and that was the first time he played the song, and he came down in a massive cassette
Eesh.
deck, and then he came down,
That's
and
crazy.
that changed the game, man.
But it's like, but it's having the understanding, eh? But like, yeah, Pharrell, Timbo, without a doubt.
Yeah,
But they've had longevity.
yeah.
They're still pumping stuff
And
out.
Timbaland and
influence.
Magoo was always just that was a testament to me appreciating the production aspects
it.
of it,
Yeah, hard.
and just understanding the influence they had as producers.
From a sound, like from
Yeah,
an
yeah.
area, and how it translated from like that area to
Yeah, to
Global.
take over.
to pretty much take over the whole game or the whole world at that point,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it was on every single. No one. People were like, I don't like hip hop, but I'm going to listen to like
Yeah,
Justin
yeah,
Timberlake.
exactly.
But like, it is hip hop because
That's-
it's produced
yeah,
by
yeah.
these people. So what are you on about?
Unfortunately, my friend, you're basically listening to hip hop.
Exactly. No, I'm not. I'm listening
Yeah,
to
yeah.
Justin Timberlake.
Wasn't
Anyhow.
that Screwed Up that had like 3-6 Mafia on it?
Hard.
Chop
That's
Me
crazy.
Up.
Chop me up. Yeah, hard. It did actually.
And then it had it was funny because
And T.I. like on that. What is this? The blend, that era of that late 2000, mid 2000s, late 2000s.
Yeah. Just
Before the tens,
insanity.
before the tens, it was just like crazy, like monumental stuff that shaped everything.
Yeah.
I know I talked about like Cudi and Kanye and stuff, but yeah, they did play a part. Probably Cudi in the last 10 years, but like they all broke down every album we kind of referenced or artist broke down doors for other people to take it further and take it further and take it further and not repeat, do the same thing.
Yeah, most definitely.
Because why? Yeah, most def. Exactly, another one. But like, okay, the last thing is the sort of Kiwi show. Always this platform to showcase NZ. If you were to pick like a New Zealand song, I know we came through with Shei Fu, Mysterious Vibe, but if you were to pick another one, that is just your favourite NZ song, or just one that you want to give a shine to, whether it's like just whatever. Like if you were to pick a song to end on and write out to, what would it be? That's from like a New Zealand artist or whatever. Like I know it's like putting you on the spot.
Snap.
I know snap crackle pop.
Maybe
Can be whatever.
Angels by Decepticons.
Yeah, this is so fire. That's one of my favorite. Like, it's one of my favorite songs. This New Zealand hip hop songs. Once I find it, do you just want to? While I'm having a moment trying to cue it up, why did you actually pick that song? Like, what does that song actually mean to you?
I don't know. I was trying to go back to the era when we were actually hanging.
And just like what it
and
represented.
what because I was listening to a lot of music from all over the world. So I was like, what was I actually listening to
Back
from New
around,
Zealand?
back then.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's a cool song because this is the kind of interesting thing that eventually, if I do enough of these, it'll be really rare if someone came up with exactly the same song from the same artist. Like it'll be
Yeah.
interesting, but it's cool that there's so many people doing different things.
Yeah.
But bro, like, shot for your time, brother. Like it's
no, I
just
appreciate
awesome.
it, genuinely.
You know me, like it's just fire, and I just got a lot out of it. It was just cool, just kick it and shot for the coffee.
Yeah.
Here and just
Thanks
shot
for
for
the
the
record.
vibes.
It's
Nah,
gonna
all
be
good, bro.
much apprecited.
It's cool, man. Like this is just I love doing it. So
Take
this
it back
is
home to Dunnes. Play it on loud.
exactly. But nah, it's cool, bro. But nah, thanks again, and shout out to all you guys out there. If you get it to the end, whether you're listening to on Spotify, YouTube's, or whatever audio or visual thing that you're doing, go and check out the bro. A lot of stuff because there's probably stuff coming this year. As always, there's
Yeah,
always
I've
some
got
stuff.
something lined up.
Which is awesome, which, leave him to talk about it outside of this. But just, if you haven't checked him out, check him out. I think you have a pretty cool idea of how awesome this brother is. So we're going to play Decepticons, Fallen Angel, produced by P Money, fire tune, and we're right out to it. Shot for listening. Catch yous later.
If I had a brick for every single fault that I have, I'd build steps and migrate to God's land. So while you succeed in this life,